Good morning, Dan and Amy. Thanks for joining us this morning as we kick off our Signature Bank business tour with a live remote from Signature Bank in downtown Chicago. Yeah. Yes. We've whipped the crowd into a frenzy. They're all lathered up at 6 in the morning.
Crowd's getting bigger, yeah.
Of course, we'll be going, as we did last year, we'll be visiting and doing live remotes from businesses around the Chicago metropolitan area in conjunction with Signature Bank to profile great success stories of entrepreneurial capitalism, even here in Chicagoland, Amy. Transitioning, you were at a funeral for a Chicago police officer who passed away yesterday.
I sure was. Charlie Streff was his name, and he became a police officer at the age of 41, and it's a fascinating story. Huh. He owned a gas shop on Clark and Toohey, and one time he watched this guy walking down the alley with 2 big bags of cash. He had just robbed a bank, and he made a citizen's arrest. He ran down there, he tackled him, he waited for police to arrive, and then he was introduced to police work, and he became a police officer at the age of 41. And he passed away from cancer, and it was just beautiful. From St. Jude's Memorial Group, they're police officers who come to, give condolences to the family.
Sure it's a huge
they
turnout.
line up in the front of the church and then say a prayer, and then each officer, sergeant or lieutenant, walks by the family and gives their condolences. It's really, to be a police officer, I think it's such a fraternity, sorority. It's a group of men and women who really care about the city of Chicago. And we should, pay homage to them, thank them all the time for the work that they do.
Well, it's a dangerous job, as we know, more so than ever. And that's why I was struck by this story in the Sun-Times the other day about the incidence of suicide. It's one thing, it's dangerous enough on the streets, but then I suppose the stress that comes from the job, the incidence of suicide among Chicago police officers, sometimes reporting it's 60% higher than other police departments in the United States. We're not comparing Chicago police to civilians, non-police officers, other professions. Chicago police officers to other police officers, it is substantially higher. Why is that? To help us understand perhaps why that is, we're pleased to be joined by Dr. Ron Rufo. Dr. Rufo is a retired Chicago police officer. He's also the author of the book, Police Suicide, Is Police Culture Killing Our Officers? Dr. Rufo, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Hi, Amy. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Good, thank you. So that stat that I read from the Sun-Times piece was just jarring, and it led us to you. What do you attribute the cause of that significantly higher incidence of suicide among Chicago police officers as compared to other police departments around the country?
Well, police officers in Chicago and other agencies as well, there's always a high rate of suicide over the general public. But police officers in Chicago, especially a lot of the officers I know, working long hours. They work overtime, have late arrests. They go to court. They work side jobs off duty. Even most officers that even get a 2 to 3 week vacation, they work their entire vacation. So they do not spend a lot of time relaxing and taking time away from the stress of police work. And it's really taxing on their mind and bodies. And on top of that, police officers have a tendency to keep everything they experience on the job to themselves. So they really keep that stress inside, and it's like layered. And the stress of the job, stress from their superiors, stress from the family, it becomes a dangerous cocktail, in my opinion. So,
and not to mention, too, what they saw. It's almost 800 homicides in the city last year. That's a war zone. And are any of these, do you think more police officers should be treated for PTSD?
Right, Amy. Yeah, it gets to you. It really does. And especially, seeing, going from one job to another. And you might, see a homicide, and then your next call might be a fatal accident. It just keeps up. That stress level is always there. You're always on guard. You're very seldom relaxing, and that's the whole thing. I believe we need to teach more emotional wellness in our police academies, because right along with defensive tactics, we lose more officers to suicide than we do to line of duty deaths. Something has to be done. it's just not good. And in Illinois, I found a problem with Illinois is that when police officers seek help, they face a dilemma. If they go to a mental facility or mental hospital, I'm not talking about our EAP for Chicago, but a different facility outside of EAP, they will lose their FOID card. I call it a domino effect to destruction, because without a FOID card, they can no longer carry a gun. And if they can't carry a gun, now they can no longer be in law enforcement. So now they're really in a bind because they're more depressed and suicidal, because the career they chose, now they're no longer going to be able to be a police officer.
To your point, just to put some numbers to this for context, the past decade, 13 Chicago police officers killed in the line of duty. Nearly twice as many officers died by their own hand during the same span, and you say that number may be even bigger than reported. I wonder what are some of the other telltale signs? Do you see people, how people respond to stress in a lot of professions by self-medicating, drugs and alcohol, other addictive behavior? Do you see a significant incidence of that as well?
Right. Well, sometimes I got to tell you, police officers keep their emotions to themselves pretty well. I've spoke to some partners that their partners have killed themselves, and they said, what, I never saw it coming. And they've been just stayed together for years. So that's how good they hide what's really bothering them. And it's not only active duty officers, sometimes it's the retired officers as well. They're not immune to suicide either. After they retire, how much golfing, fishing, cleaning the garage can they do? They go from being that go-to guy for 25 to 30 years, and then they often have a difficult time, taking on their new role of just staying home and really chilling out, coupled with maybe some alcohol, and they have their sidearm on their side. It's like an easy way out. So we also have the problem with retired officers as well, because it's it's like a domino effect, especially, and then we also find drinking is involved in some of the suicides as well. So it's kind of a depressant, and there they go. They take their own lives.
Ron, do you know the suicide rate among retired police officers?
You know what? I don't have that in front of me. It's what surprises me is a lot of the agencies, and I see this more in previous years, where they'll take care of their officers, like saying that the officer died cleaning his weapon, or he might have been a great swimmer and he died drowning in a pool. So the figures and the statistics may be off a little bit, because they have them dying a different way than killing themselves or as a police suicide. So the figures could be skewed a little bit.
Ron, I note that while you were on the Chicago Police Force, you volunteered as a peer support counselor, where you talked to fellow officers at any scene where an officer was killed or injured. And I wonder from that experience if, kind of what you learned about how to make a connection with somebody who may be keeping it all in and needs somebody to talk to make sure that kind of they don't trend toward that self-destructive behavior we're describing.
Well, I was very fortunate to be in the peer support team with the Chicago Police Department, and I eventually became a team leader. And I attribute becoming a peer support team leader, and we would go out to officers, and even in the unit I was in, it was in the preventive programs unit. So with that, we went to a lot of police officers that got hurt or killed in the line of duty, and we were able to talk to officers that were really troubled. And it's really a great thing that having in the peer support team with the Chicago Police Department. I'm very honored to be on it and be a part of it. It's 300 officers that take their own time to speak to other officers that are having a problem. Police officers are known really not to speak to anybody but to other police officers, and they will probably, I want to say probably, they open up more to police officers than they would to anyone else, even their own family. because what they say is it's like there's a bond between us. There's that camaraderie, and it really is important to get some things off your chest when you really need to. Where if someone with peer support, if someone came in and we spoke together about some issues they may have, the first thing I tell them, if you want to hurt yourself or someone else, I have to refer you to, a psychologist or someone else that has more training than I do. But whatever they say will be kept confidential. I don't even tell my family, my wife, anything. Whatever they say, sometimes I'll go and talk to someone. Do you just want me to listen? Or do you want me to give you an opinion, or what can we do? And then there's always the follow-up. You have to follow up with these individuals to see, is everything okay, that they're still, that they're not going in that wrong direction of wanting to hurt themselves.
We're talking to Dr. Ron Rufo. He's a retired Chicago police officer. He's the author of the book, Police Suicide: Is Police Culture Killing Our Officers? You started our conversation saying, more needs to be done, and I wonder if one of those things that needs to be done is more staffing, because when we talk about police, we're always talking about more cops on the street, but it turns out the Chicago Police Department's Employee Assistance Program, which provides mental health services, you've got some 12,000, 13,000 police officers in Chicago, 3 full-time counselors in the Employee Assistance Program. Compare that to the LAPD, for example, which has about 10,000 police officers. They have almost 4 times the number of clinicians for their police officers. Do we need more mental health service staffing for CPD?
Dan, that is so true. When I first came on the job, it was unbelievable that we only had 3 psychologists or 3 counselors on duty, and even they need to take vacations and take time off as well. But I really believe that police officers need to go see mental health EAP services a little bit more, or reach out to peer support. I worked with Dr. Meryl Friedman. She's in my book as well. She has a program called Police Chiefs Lead the Way, where police chiefs actually show the rank and file that it's okay to go talk to a counselor. It's okay to see someone just maybe even once a year, just to get any problems or any bad thoughts in your mind out there. You might have a problem with your wife. You might have a problem with your one of your superiors. You might have a problem with management. Just to talk about it, just to get it out there, instead of just keeping it inside you all the time. Or you might have experienced a lot of bad things on the job, being with maybe fatal accidents or homicides. You keep seeing that every day, day after day. It gets there. It really does. And sometimes you just need to talk about it. And I think that's what we need to do. But we are really short of clinicians. Like Los Angeles, they have 12 clinicians to our 3, and we have many more police officers on duty. Something's wrong there. Where do we take care of our officers? Like on the side of our squad car says "Serve and Protect." Who's serving and protecting us? That's the whole thing. That's one of the main reasons why I wrote the book. I said it's like everything. Every time you talk about police suicide, no one wants to talk about it. It's that elephant in the room. It's there, but no one wants to admit it's there.
All right. He is Dr. Ron Rufo, retired Chicago police officer, author of the book, Police Suicide: Is Police Culture Killing Our Officers? Ron, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks so much, Dan. Amy, take care. I appreciate it. Thanks for highlighting the subject. It's really important.
Absolutely. Thank you for the book.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.